So welcome back to Poser Destroyer, everyone. Today I'm very excited because we're kicking off a series of videos highlighting different artists in metal. I think it's something that's really undervalued. I'm especially somebody old school that likes to buy that physical copy, get that art, get the extra art, get the lyrics, all of that. So today I'm thrilled to be joined by my friend Nev. He creates art under the name Gruesome Graphx. He's also been the vocalist for multiple bands, including Kaiju, Entrenched Ingurgitation, and Loathsome. He runs Shepherd of Rot Records, but today we're talking about art. Over the last 15 years, Nev has become one of the most prolific artists in extreme metal, having created art for the likes of Cianide, Molder, Frozen Soul, Cardiac Arrest, Ichimosis, Mortuous, Oxygen Destroyer, VHS, Anatomia, Acid Witch, and countless, like a lot more. He also did the logo for this channel, so a shout out to him for that as well. So he's been the go-to artist for my label, Sewer Rot Records, for a lot of different projects, and many artists in our roster too, including cover art he's done for the split between Soul Devourment and Anatomia, the 4 Dimensions of Auditory Terror split, Adversayon, Puke Race, Cyanosis, and many more. Yeah, let's start with anything else you want to add in terms of introducing yourself?
No, that's it, man. I think you covered most of it. It's hard to put in the intro of over 20 something years of work, so I think you did a solid job there.
So you said you've been doing this for 20 years now. How'd you start off? What got you into this, especially doing kind of art for metal? Is that how it started, or what?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've been doing it over 20 years. I think 2001 I did like my first flyer for like a couple local bands, but yeah, the moment I saw like a lot of metalheads when they saw, I always got into metal early on, but like my old man introduced me to Black Sabbath and a couple buddies introduced me to Iron Maiden. But as far as death metal goes, a lot of people were introduced to Cannibal Corpse through Ace Ventura. I'm like, well, what the fuck was that? Like, I gotta know more about that. And looked them up, I think in a couple magazines or some shit like that, and then saw their shirts at the mall. I'm like, okay, that art is awesome. Once I saw Locke's art, I'm like, I need to do that. And I was more hooked by the art, well, music first and the art, and then it just kind of came together. And I said I wanted to do that either for a living or whatever. And obviously you can't do that for a living nowadays, but that was the first inclination. Like I kind of wanted to do this, and it took me a while to find my style. I grew up in the sticks where there was not a whole lot of like shows where I was at. So it wasn't until probably my first year in like art school, quote unquote, that I did my first flyer.
So did you go to school for art? Is that what you said?
Yeah, yes and no. I actually did this like it was like a certificate course for media arts and animation. Basically, it's for computer animation, and I hated it, sucked. I cut a lot of my classes. I actually met my wife during that time, so that was the reason why I cut most of my classes. I was always ADD real bad, so just sit in front of a computer all day to try to like move like vertices and shit like that now. I can't do it. So I was more of always a traditional artist, and I found ways to just get into more of that digital space, but my own way. But yeah, I did go to school for it and absolutely hated it. Do not recommend that for anyone who has ADD and would want to do art for a living.
So you mentioned digital art. Can you tell me how would you describe your style of art? What medium do you prefer, and what differentiates you maybe from other artists?
Yeah, I switch it up. I would say I'm probably like 70% digital, 30% ballpoint pen or Sharpie. I do love, messing around with the Sharpies every now and then just to go back to the roots of how I started doing it. For ease of just the way the world is now, and especially how I commute to work via train, I do most of my stuff on the iPad using Procreate and the Apple Pencil. I don't use that many brushes. I think there's maybe like 3 or 4 I typically use, probably even less than that now that I think about it. When I color, I kind of expand a little bit more than that. I don't really make my own brushes. I think I have 2 sets that I make just for like quick stuff of like, flies or a bigger pencil brush, if you will. But I don't really mess around with that stuff too much. I just kind of go right into it. Just how I've always worked, bare minimum.
Is there a particular program you like to use when you're doing the digital stuff?
Yeah, I use Procreate. It's the most natural one that I feel is more natural for how I do stuff. I've done, Clip Studio, I did Photoshop, and I think Procreate is like, I never consider myself an artist. I'm always like a professional doodler kind of. And I just felt that's like the loosest program that I could do for my stuff. I could do it quick and easy. It records it automatically so I can get more of that social content on YouTube and TikTok and all that kind of crap like that. But yeah, Procreate's usually my go-to.
So what's your process look like? So you're given an idea, someone's requested it, hopefully they've paid you some, and then where do you go from there?
It's usually like a three-step process. It's thumbnail, clean pencils, and then I just finish it out. That's how I've been doing it for a very long time, and it's worked.
So, but before we dive into some of these more specific album covers, can you tell me a little bit about you and your hobbies? So I see this massive collection behind you. You sing in a band called Kaiju, and you've worked with some different bands too that are Godzilla themed and whatnot. We'll get to that. But can you tell me a little bit about that and your collection and what's this stuff mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a Godzilla fan since I was a wee kid, watching, the old movies that were poorly dubbed on the local stations with my old man. Collected Godzilla for as long as I can remember, and that's kind of like my passion. Godzilla, any kind of tokusatsu stuff, Ultraman, Gamera. Been getting more into like the old like Showa Henshin stuff. Just I really like how those toys are made. It's very clean and simple, and then the paint is just like just it's art kind of. I do have a lot of the new stuff as well, and then of course growing up in the 80s, you start to get more and more of those things that you see, like the old Turtles figures, and Jurassic Park is a big thing for me too. So I just been collecting nonstop for a very long time. Probably will slow down eventually soon. I'm probably running out of space. And then I'll just start pulling off the ones that I probably didn't need. But yeah, I always watch Godzilla at least once a week, twice a week. Ultraman I usually put in the background. I'm working if I'm not listening to music, but it's always been in there for me. I did take a break for a while, just because there was a dormant time after Godzilla Final Wars and that horrible, like, well, that was like Final Wars in 2000 whatever, but there was really nothing after that that I gave a shit about, and I got back into it when my wife and I moved into a house about 17 years ago, 18 years ago, and yeah, been cranking and rolling.
So how intuitive is the combination between metal, right, and this other hobby of yours?
Yeah.
So here I've got the split that his band Kaiju, their most recent release with Drew Lord, really great split, worth checking out. But yeah, what was the thinking there of bringing these two loves of yours together?
Yeah, I mean, there was not a whole lot of bands that were doing the whole like kaiju and death metal thing. Cianide, of course, did a bunch of stuff. I'm sure there's a few other bands that did it, but there was never a themed band. So I just said, screw it, I'll start one. And I use band loosely because it was just me and Joel just trading tracks over like MySpace and email. So it was more like an internet project, if you will. But I never saw it, so I figured let's do it for a little bit and see what happens. So obviously not active anymore. I haven't been in a band in a very long time. Kind of smoke and drank my vocals pretty much destroyed, but it was fun doing Kaiju for sure. We did the split, had the demo, the full length that we had Jeff Zorno do, another awesome buddy of mine who's a Kaiju fan as well, has done some crazy art for other bands too. But yeah, it was pretty fun for what it was.
Yeah, you don't see a lot of that, maybe especially coming into death metal too much. Some of it, yeah, you mentioned Cyanide. Nile 2 albums ago just straight up played the Godzilla theme
Yeah,
at the intro of a song.
yeah.
But another band worth mentioning that it's their whole thing, right, is Oxygen Destroyer. You did for us actually, Sewer Rot Records, a cover for an Oxygen Destroyer compilation album where you depicted a kaiju destroying a fictitious sewer rot headquarters. Can you tell me a little bit about that process and what that was like working with that band?
Yeah, Jordan's an awesome dude. I actually, I think the first time, I forgot how we first started talking. It was definitely online. I think Aaron from Mulder introduced me to them when they played a show here in Chicago. And the first time I met them in person, I actually recorded their show for them, and then wound up doing the art for that VHS. I think the Frozen Soul was on there too, and I forgot the other band that was on there. But yeah, Jordan hit me up, and he's a big nerd like me and the kaiju stuff, so we definitely nerded out on that and started to do more and more art. I've done a couple shirts from them as well. I did that. Did a split tape too for them, but Yeah, that process was cool. He was very like, let's just have a kaiju like kind of destroying something, very like big, huge, oversized type scene, and we came up with that. So it was a really fun process. He's usually very like, whatever you want to do, man, just do it. But here's the idea. And sometimes it's based off a track or a lyric. We did the giant claw shirt, which I think is my favorite shirt I did for them because no one's ever worn a giant claw shirt before, and yeah, that's a good one. It was a fun one.
Is it safe to say those sorts of projects are maybe a little bit more fun for you since it's speaking to another interest, or not necessarily?
Yeah, no, I definitely think so. It's weird because I've only drawn like Godzilla itself once for uh Texas Toast Chainsaw Massacre, and it was like they were like wrestling he was wrestling Leatherhead or some shit like that. That was done a while ago. So I always have like a I'm always afraid to draw Godzilla or something that's more reminiscent of a true kaiju because I don't think I'd ever do it service. Like those designs are so iconic. There's much better people that do it, doing them better. So I appreciate not doing your typical one. So when I work with Oxygen Destroyer, they kind of say like, do, whatever you want, Giant Claw or just some other random kaiju. So that actually gives you a bit more flex to feel confident, not fuck up Godzilla.
Yeah. I don't know if there's any like kind of rights issues that it's easier to dodge with that stuff too. Probably not a concern in underground stuff. But moving forward here, so you've also worked with Molder, and now they're kind of like really exploding, right? One of the fastest growing, really well regarded death metal bands, and you did the cover, right, for their Vanished Cadavers album, one of their early kind of breakthrough steps. Can you tell me a little bit about that one?
Yeah, I met Aaron, I think through the guys from Cardiac Arrest too. He went to a show and we got introduced and just hit it off really well. And he's awesome. He's a death metal just monster. He like writes riffs. He's an awesome logo designer too. He does really cool logos and shit like that. So when he hit me up to do the cover, I was pretty stoked because I dug what they were doing. And he had a very rough sketch that I took. It was very rough. Had to fix a couple things in there as far as like what we wanted to put in this. I'm a big like focal point type of guy in my artwork. Like there's a lot of I'm not a huge fan of like the over busyness of death metal covers. Like I know it looks good on vinyl, but to me, like it's almost overwhelming to look at. And for a person that's to create it, it's even more overwhelming to create it. Now some people get lost in the sauce and love that shit. I don't. So the sketch that he gave, I tweaked a couple things that have that focal point of that guy like kind of yanking that cadaver out, and the rest is just history. Did a ton of shit for them later on after that too, shirts and all their stuff. I think I did like an EP cover or a live track. I can't remember what it was, but yeah, it was. They're great dudes. Love them all. They're always a same thing. Like we have this idea. Here's a one sentence thing. Go rip it, and 9 times out of 10, it's there. So.
So speaking of cardiac arrest, here's another example really well of that focal point emphasis with that figure right there in the center. Your eyes immediately drawn to it. Love the cardiac arrest guys. You did the cover for their 8th album. Can you tell me a little bit about that and what it was like working with them?
Yeah, Tom's a very good friend of mine. I've known him probably close to 16, 17 years, all the old cardiac dudes. But yeah, he was a guy that definitely gave me some introductions to like the Cianide guys and all that kind of stuff. He's been in the Chicago scene for a very long time with like Dogod and Severed and all the other shit like that. But it was a while before we worked together in a cover. They always had somebody else doing the cover. I was always doing a shirt, or I think I did the split for their Coffin 7-inch, which was like the first cover I did for them. And then they finally said like, you're up, dude. Let's do this. So they signed to Hell's Headbangers. We worked out an idea. That was a little bit of a process because they wanted to do a full wraparound because it was like their first big ass like release. So that one actually took a lot of time, just because of the detail that I needed to put into each little piece there. But I think it turned out great. They liked it a lot. Probably, hopefully, we'll do the next one. They start talking about it a little bit, but their writing machines are always writing. So it's just a matter of time before we work together again.
You did several years ago now the cover for the live album by Cianide, Chicago Death Metal Legends, right? What was it like working of a band of kind of that caliber, at least that in the underground, right, are legends?
Yeah, I mean, again, same thing. Like when Tom introduced me to them, we definitely clicked as well as beer drinkers, death metal maniacs, and definitely clicked with Mike from Cyanide because he's a huge Godzilla kaiju nerd as well. So we talk daily about that random shit. So it was just really cool. There was one day he just said, "Hey, we need a cover for their EP. I can't remember that now. It's the red one, Unhumanized or something like that." And we worked together on that. That was really seamless. And then that show that I actually attended, they were going to record the show and put it on the CD. Well, fast forward to a couple of 2 years later, something like that, a year later, a year ago, I should say. They said, "Hey, we need a cover for it," and said, "Here you go." And that was the end of it. They're pretty easygoing guys too. They're just your typical like beer drinking Chicago dudes that just like we're writing riffs and then we need a cover and then go dormant for a little bit and then play one show randomly. But yeah, that was always cool to see. Like, yeah, they're legends. Like, love them to death. But I never really, they're just buddies. Like I never put them on any kind of like huge pedestal of like cock stars and shit like that. They're just regular Joes like me, and we love the same shit. And it was cool to be a part of their history. Hopefully to do it again soon. I know they're writing some stuff now, but we'll see.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
So the cover you did for Cyanosis was very different in that this was one I actually reached out to you to do
Yeah.
Because we wanted to reissue this 1999 album, hadn't been reissued, kind of underground brutal death metal gem. But the cover, I didn't have real strong feelings about the original cover. It was probably just some stolen art from here and there, and I thought we could do a little bit something special with it. And just to clarify, although we made a new cover, it still included the old cover, right? I never want to piss off the people that are like, well, only the OG cover, right? So that's still there, and so I didn't hear any complaints. But I really like the recreated cover you did. It has a ton of detail. It still has the general idea of that original image, but elevated. By the way, if anybody hates the coloring on it, I did the coloring, so you can blame me. You can't blame them for that. I think it turned out cool. But can you tell me just what that process was like to have to kind of reinvent through your own lens especially an album that maybe some really well regard?
Yeah, it was different. I only had done that one at a time, and it was for the band before they were called Dripping, and now I can't remember the name of it, but it's a picture of like this corpse cadaver kind of splattered on the street. Same thing where I had to recreate it, but kind of with my own take. So that was not necessarily challenging, but it was just different for me. Especially with the one you're talking about there. That's got a lot of detail. There's a shit ton of skulls in that. So I had to gather what patience I have left and really just okay, do each skull, do each brick, do each line. But it was interesting. I've had a lot of people ask to do that recently, and I've kind of turned them down just because I don't want to be the guy that photocopies stuff with my mind in my hand. But every once in a while it'll pop up. So like I'm glad I did those pieces, the one I did for you and the previous one. But it was different, not my favorite thing to do, but it's just one of those things that I could do if I really had to.
So you've also done some art for some of these big kind of rising bands, right? Frozen Soul, Sanguisugabogg. I don't know if I'm saying that right.
Yeah.
Get mad in the comments. But how is working with them? Is that important to you to be able to work with some of these bands that are kind of quickly getting exposure, and does that kind of reflect on you then?
Yeah, I mean, I for Sanguisugabogg, I think it was Cody or maybe even Devin. I can't remember who it was. They always hit me up for like a logo for another project or a quick shirt design. They're great dudes too. I met them a bunch. They are another one of those bands where they're just like, here's like our quick idea. Can you just do it? And I do it, and there's usually no changes. So they're always great to work with. I try to see them when they come on tour because they're really good dudes. Frozen Soul, I've actually never seen live just because every time they come here, I'm always booked with work or some shit. But yeah, they came up to me, or they came out to me with, was it on Instagram or something like that for their single, Morbid Effigy, before they finished the video, and then they said they needed a shirt to go along with the pre-orders. And they said they wanted, me because of my color work and all the gore stuff I've done. And that was a really fun shirt to do. Never been asked to do a gory snowman before, so it was different. And they showed me parts of the sculpt in the video. They didn't show me the video. They wanted to keep it like behind closed doors a little bit, and that was really cool to do. I dig them a lot as well. I need to see them, but I hope to work with them again real soon too. But yeah, I've never really had an issue doing art for up and coming like fast rising bands. I never saw that as like an issue. I was never like a gatekeeper of I'm not going to do it because you're popular or whatever. I mean, I've done stuff for Trivium and Matt. So like, I don't, as long as you're a cool person and you pay me, I don't really give a shit how popular you are, how not popular you are, you know?
Yeah. Not worried about like losing or gaining scene points or whatever.
No, I mean, I've done stuff for hardcore bands, and I'm not the biggest hardcore guy. Like some of them, I've done stuff for deathcore stuff. I'm not the biggest deathcore guy, but I think there's a lot of the gatekeeping stuff, which I'm too old for that, to be honest with you. I just don't give a shit about if there's certain genres infiltrating whatever. I've done stuff for like old school metal bands that are the biggest assholes in the world, like try to nickel and dime you or do whatever. And I've done stuff for the upcoming crop that maybe a lot of people don't like, and they're the nicest people. Sometimes even pay you more because maybe the idea was a little too like strenuous or they had changes. So that stuff doesn't bother me. As long as you pay me and you don't treat me like shit, we'll be fine.
So there's a couple of other album covers you mentioned that you feel pretty strongly about, that you've done something awesome with them. So can you tell me a little bit about these? So starting with the Haggis and Couple Skate split. So really strong, bold colors here. Love that color use. Can you tell me a little bit about that cover?
Yeah, that was when I was doing my kind of cartoon Spumco ripoff stuff. I don't do it a ton anymore just because I kind of got burnt out on it. But no, they're a couple skate. They're awesome dudes. I've done a shit ton of art for them. I actually think I've done all their releases for them. But they had a split idea. I don't even think they gave me an idea for the cover. They just said they needed artwork. And I think maybe it was one of the Haggis guys had said, "Can you do it in like a weed farm or something like that?" And that was all the direction they gave me. So I just did that. Usually they're pretty like again, one sentence, like just do whatever. We're not gonna make any changes. And that's how it came out. But that's probably I think they're that split and the girth split are the ones that I get recognized for the most, just because of how weird and bright colors they are. I know I've seen a couple memes with those made too. So those are the ones I think that people peg me for.
So you said that one kind of nods to a particular art style. Are there specific artists that inspired you or that you kind of take inspiration from that you feel like maybe shows in your work?
Yeah, I mean, Vincent Locke for sure. All the Cannibal Corpse stuff, the Spumco animation style I grew up with. A lot of the '80s gross toys, James Groman and all that kind of stuff was the reason why I liked the gross because it was more like jokey gross versus
Right.
violent gross. I
Was that
think
like Ren and Stimpy and stuff like that?
yeah, Ren and Stimpy did like there was a couple other shows too that did, but a lot of the gross toys like My Pet Monster, Mad Balls, some of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle stuff back in the late '80s, all that kind of crazy shit was the bright colors too. That was when the bright colors were everywhere, and it was never really in death metal because it was kind of like it's got to be grimy and dark and gray and black and red, and then I started to do it more and more with those vibrant colors because no one else was doing it, and I liked it, and that was my style for a long time. I think it's my coloring's still the same, but my line work has definitely changed.
How has it changed? Can you describe that?
Yeah, it's definitely not as cartoony as it used to be. I mean, I think I have a pretty recognizable style. I don't really rip anybody else. It took me a long time to get to that style, but it's not the cartoony like big lines that you see. I can still do it. I've done a couple recent pieces where I've used it, and I'm like, yeah, I don't miss doing this, but I'll do it every once in a while. But I think my style has definitely gotten more uh detailed. I don't want to say refined because my style is very loose, very, very loose, but I would say it's a little bit more refined detailed, yeah, not refined.
And then if you could just comment on one more cover that stylistically is very different from the others that we've talked about so far, which is the
Oh yeah.
Metal Ulcer cover.
Yeah.
Looks a little more mixed media. Looks like you're working with some different imagery. Can you tell me about that one?
Yeah, I forget. I haven't talked to that guy in years. I think his name was Leo. He was in like Die Pigeon Die, an Australian gore grind brand that was pretty good. He came up and he needed a cover for I think it was like a compilation or a new album. I don't remember. And I wanted to try collage. I like doing collages. I didn't do a ton of them, but whenever he hit me up, I just had this vision of what you saw there, and I really like doing collages. I've done a couple pieces recently that I put up for sale and were bought. It's just different. I like the fact that I can kind of take a photo and mess it up a little bit. It's not. I wish I could do it like traditionally, but magazines are like $30 now, and I don't want to rip it up. So, you just find some royalty-free, stock-free images, and you color correct and kind of take away a little bit of stuff. I wanted to make it kind of creepy. That's why I kind of scratched out the eyes, and she's eating like a bowl of maggots and stuff like that. But it's just not creepy is maybe not the right word. Maybe it's like unsettling or uncomfortable. It kind of reminded me of the Prowler in the Yard artwork a little bit, just from like how there's some random images, but you can kind of see what's there, and it's unnerving. So I wanted to kind of hit that same tone, same attitude, emotion with that one.
So if you'll humor me, I'd like to help people get an idea of what it's like working as an artist, particularly within metal, right? So you're working with a lot of underground bands, don't have much of a budget, but to have this conversation, I'd like to show you a series of images that depict conversations you've had with often potential clients.
Yeah.
So I'll go ahead and share these in case they are not fresh in your mind. First, let's talk about people valuing the work of artists. Please feel free to chime in with any further commentary as we look through some of these images here. But the bottom of the barrel here includes individuals just asking for free art. So here's an example of that. So they asked if you have any free art. You asked if they had any free money. And this concluded with the very appropriate, "It appears we are at a crossroads." So I love the level of snark that you approach some of these with. But any comments on this one?
Yeah, I mean, I get these a couple times a week. People asking, I only have $10, or do you have anything you don't want? And I just think it's the I don't want to call it an industry or scene, but it's just the way that people value art as a whole. They think it's free. They think we're millionaires. They think as AI is now, they can just make whatever they want. And they don't really value the craft or the time that we put to making our craft. Like I said, I've been doing this over 20 years. So a lot of people just assume that they see art all over Instagram and TikTok and how easy it is to do. So they can just kind of go and penny pinch, and they don't think about the time away from either your family or your real job or whatever it is. So you get comments like this crap where it's like, can you just donate this for the scene? I'm like, no, you don't get, this isn't a donation. Like, I use this to pay bills or buy shit, or I'm not supporting the scene. We are a partner, right? And partners get paid. So I'm providing my services to you. You need to provide me with money. That's how the world works. Like, it's people just don't see that anymore. And it sucks to see, because it's getting more and more like that. I think it's getting more and more like that just because there are so many bands out there, so many bands, so many copycat artists, and it sucks. But I try to put this out there so people can see what the real like shitty part of doing art for bands is. Like a lot of people, I don't want to say glorify it, but like it's cool to work with bands that you like and you respect. But then there are some pieces of shit that are like this, and it kind of knocks you down a peg of like, why am I doing this? And then, I kind of pull my big boy pants up and just say, I'm going to keep on going.
So here's another example of this, just playing off exactly what you just said right there. They've got no money. Can I just like get a crayon drawing of a cat done by your little brother or something? So it doesn't even seem like a real request. So at this point, they're just wasting your time. But yeah, essentially still hoping for something free, it seems.
Yeah. And sometimes too, I wonder if they are looking for that attention, like if they're hoping that I post their screen name or whatever. So I try to not give them that kind of attention. But I have a lot of artist friends, so I want to make sure that I post it. And when I do post it, I'll, someone will sometimes hit me like, hey, who was that? I'll, on the side, like in a DM, I'll give them the band name, because I don't want people to fall into the trap of like, I have to do free art to get noticed. Like, no, you don't. You just have to do what you want to do and show your worth. And then you'll be, as long as you're happy doing what you're doing, like you'll eventually get where you want to be.
Yeah. So here's another example. So do you draw logos? Yes. Do I have to pay to get one done?
Yep. Again, I don't know what planet some of these folks are on. Like, why would you not have to pay? It boggles my mind. And that means, like, this person like clearly has seen my work, clearly has seen something, and I don't know what. But like, I've done a lot of work and a lot of work for bigger bands. Like, do people just assume that I just do it for free or we do it for free? It's crazy to me. Absolutely crazy.
Yeah, like are these artists just wealthy sitting around and they're just doing this for fun? Like
Yeah. Yeah. Having
usually
a
the
good time.
complete opposite. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I don't, it's very bizarre to me. Like I said, I'm 43 years old, so that kind of mentality's, lost on me.
Yeah. So one more free request. This one, a Vietnamese edition, a band called Superfluous Melons here, asking if yeah, that they'll give you credit and promote your art if you do free stuff for them. And I know we've got thousands of Superfluous Melon fans watching right now, so you really could have used that exposure. But yeah, there's a lot of this just kind of hallucinating with imagining that how does this help you? They're doing you a favor if you
Yeah.
create free art for them. It's not a huge band doing this. Uh, Pestilence or whoever
Yeah,
that
you're right.
has kind of made
Exactly.
that specific request.
Yeah.
But yeah, this just crazy.
Yeah, the term exposure gets tossed around a lot, and I don't need exposure anymore. Like, if I was starting out, I could maybe say like come down in price, but I don't need that anymore. I do the commissions I want to do. So when a band that I've never fucking heard of wants me to do art, and they're gonna give me more exposure like that, that's even worse than asking for free art, because you're trying to like swindle me a little bit. Like, their credit's more higher than my credit, which it's obviously not the case here.
Yeah, so sorry we won't see quality artwork for that band then.
Not this year, no.
So free artwork, right? That's not going to happen. But let's talk about how cheap can we get. So here's a band asking for a shirt design that they surely put a lot of thought into because they asked for, and this is a quote, right? Like a bunch of evil skulls. So they clearly put a lot of thought into that design idea. The E in evil was capitalized to further emphasize the evilness of the skulls. Very important. And Nev
Yeah.
gave a quote at 185. He already mentioned with the cyanosis cover, right? How much that takes a lot of time to just have to draw a pile of skulls. So a reasonable quote here. And then the band asked to pay only $50 to $60. So in other words, for the price of a cheap dinner for two, or a last generation video game, or what Century Media seems to think the price of a vinyl record should be now, they wanted to commission an artist to work for multiple hours, right, to create an original art piece that will last forever. So how long does taking a piece of art take you to make, like hours wise?
I'm actually pretty quick. I mean, it really depends on the idea. If it's a cover, if it's a shirt, if it's a logo. I mean, logos I can crank out probably in an hour or two, depending on how many letters, depending on what type of logo. If it's one of my like gore grind illustration impetigo looking logos, it takes a little bit more time. But if it's just letters, it's usually like an hour or two. Shirt designs, probably like 4 or 5 hours, sometimes six. Like I said, I do them on a train, so about an hour commute back and forth. Um, yeah, I mean, if it's an idea that I am like have a lot of heart for, like gross gore, I'm usually cranking it out pretty quickly. If it's something that I not too comfortable doing, if it's like a robot type thing, which I've done before, like it takes me a little bit of time to do, but I'm pretty quick. I'm pretty quick. But like stuff like this, just because I'm quick doesn't mean I'm going to charge less, you know?
Right. And for like a shirt design like this too, then just based on even you being quick, if we look at the hourly rate of that, it's still like less than what a grocery store would pay
Right.
somebody coming in brand new. So they're really trying to kind of devalue your time there in a way. But do you have any thoughts on how often do you get this sort of stuff where you give them a quote and they say, no, I want to pay dramatically less than that?
Oh yeah, I get that. I mean, I get that a lot, and I
Yeah.
don't post all the stuff that I don't post all this type of shit. These connections with bands that want to like $30 pieces or $20 pieces when I quote them 300 or something like that, just because I would just flood my timeline with that stuff. But yeah, going back to the hour thing too, it's a lot of people like asked if I have like rigid rates on how much is a shirt, how much is whatever. Like I can't do that because of how quickly I do it. Tattoo artists will do like 150, $200 an hour. And even like that to me, like it's hard because I couldn't charge $200 for like a simple lettering logo. Usually they're much cheaper than that. Not that I devalue myself, but I know these bands like they are working just like I am. So I can't charge them that much because I know they're penny pinching because they have to go on tour, they got to print merch and contract deals and blah blah blah. So I try to be respectful of that as well without selling myself short.
Sure. And sometimes when the task is less demanding, you do quote them accordingly when it's something maybe takes less time. So here's an example of a design that you quoted a band at $100, and the person said even that costs too much, right? Like, how hard is it for a band of 4 people each pitching $25? That should be very reasonable.
Yeah.
But still, they said $100 was too much.
Yep. Yeah, I mean it happens like this, this person, I forgot what it was, but they were respectful. Like they said, I don't have that with me. They didn't try to shortchange me or chisel me down and kind of stuff like that. But it sucks. It sucks, like you said, when four or three, even one grown man can't have $100 and they're trying to start a band, like then just don't start a band or do the art for yourself. Like there are a ton of amazing demos where the art is absolutely crude and it looks awesome because you did it for yourself. I would rather see shitty demo art than you try to chisel an artist down for an evil skull pile for $2.
And I think a
Start
lot of
being
bands
alive for a
too.
reason.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think a lot of bands too don't realize that, well, you put this music out there and then it's out there forever, right? You want to spend some money into the production, you want to take some time recording everything, maybe take some time on the lyrics, and then the art too, right, is going to be synonymous with that music forever. And so you'd think you'd want something that takes more than 15 minutes and $25 to be on there. But yeah, that's not how a lot of people think of it. Like one of my favorite bands from my home state of Indiana, they've been around for over 30 years now, and they still don't even want to, properly mix and master the album. I get that it doesn't cost much money, but you investing a little bit into your project, I think is worth it in the long run, and that certainly is true, I think, with the art.
Yeah. Oh no, I 100% agree. Like I like, rough sounding demos as much as anybody else. But like, if you're a band that wants to continue to evolve and you're not putting some sort of financial like investment in there, then you just jam, like don't record anything. You know what I mean? Like you're kind of doing yourself a disservice by making yourself sound shitty because you don't want to invest. And I get it. Like we're all working, we're all whatever, but like, don't form a band to get rich because you'll fail pretty quickly, unless you're some K-pop garbage, like, but you're not, we're death metal, you know.
Here's one more. You quoted that it is $100, and they said, "Oh, that's I didn't know it was going to be so expensive." Again, just $100, but they said they'll let you know when they've got it. I was wondering, do bands ever get back to you? Do they ever put together that $100?
Yeah, sometimes they'll hit me up, but it'll be several months later. Like I do remember specifically there was one band, I don't remember their name. It was a long time ago, but I had quoted them up money. I quoted them like $100 for something. I don't know what it was for. But it was a couple months later they came back and the guy said, "I got my birthday money, so I can buy the art for you." So he spent his grandma's birthday money on a piece from me, and I thought, oh, spot, happy birthday, but here's your piece of artwork. But yeah, I would say there's a pretty good chunk that do come back. Sometimes, like if they're really hurting on cash and they have, I got half of it. Can I give you half of it? Yeah, you can give me half of it, but I'm not going to start it till you give me the other half. Sometimes I do that as well, just like to hold their place in my commission line, because I do stack up pretty quickly, even though nowadays I've been pretty dead. But yeah, they do come back sometimes.
Yeah. So speaking yeah, full payment before you get started. Is that how you generally do it? Is make sure you have the full payment before you begin on a piece, or?
Yeah, 9 times out of 10, I need all cash up front. And then I do the sketches. And like I say, I'm very responsive. Like I'm constantly contacting the band or whoever's commissioning me because I know what it's like to send money to somebody and then you go crickets. Like that pisses me off. And I think with the ADD and the impatience of the internet has taught me, I try not to do that to bands or people that commission me. So I'm always cash up front. I've been doing it a long time. You've seen my work in other places. I know you guys know I'm good for it. And I've never had anybody say, I don't want to do that. Usually they'll say like, okay, let me gather the funds, but I've never heard someone say like, oh, I don't want to do that. Maybe a couple times when I was first starting out that way, but then sometimes when I first started out, I would do like half up front, then they would give me half. And then because I would have to send them previews, they would, screw me on the other half. So I stopped doing that altogether.
Sure. Yeah. And then
run.
Yeah, and then they could almost hold you hostage, right, with that second half and just drag you through the ringer. And
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So here's another example building off that where they say they don't have the money, right? So you quoted somebody at 185. They said I only have $70 right now. And so again, this is a grown person with a job, and they reached out to an artist to hire them, knowing they only had total $70 in their bank account. So it
Yeah.
just seems so odd too. Why are you trying to hire somebody when you don't have more money than that? Like you don't even have $100 in this case.
Yeah, and I think this person was on TikTok. I've actually been getting a lot of commission requests on TikTok, but I think only one of them has actually paid off.
Hmm.
And I think it's just the demographic on that platform. You know, they are very conversational. They don't really have a fear of talking to people, but
Hmm.
they don't know the real world and what it takes to make things and how much it costs and the time, because all they see is like influencers and quote unquote content makers is making garbage flooding the internet, and they just think it's just easy. Or I'm an influencer that has an island in the fucking Virgin Islands or whatever, making my death metal logos in my hut, but I'm just a schmuck from Illinois making some art, so I need to get paid.
So do you think impulsivity is playing a role there? They're like, oh, that sounds cool. I would like a
I
piece
think
of art.
so.
So without thinking about any of the actual ramifications or that it requires money, they just hit you up. Probably don't even have a real purpose for the art.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't even know, like this person, there's a couple times where they don't even have a band. They just like want my artwork. And you know, like I say, I do like 70 digital, 30% physical. Sometimes people like pay me to do physical artwork, but that's significantly higher because I actually have to take time out of my day to do that. So like if this piece was physical, it'd probably be 5 times that, because I got to take a whole weekend to sit in my basement and do this and really focus on that. And that takes a lot, and I got to ship it out. So I haven't done a lot of those in a long time. But once in a great while they'll come through.
So now let's look at a few examples to just think about standards with art. So what are your requirements before you consent to the request that somebody provides you with? What won't you do?
Yeah, I mean nothing overtly like violent towards women stuff. I don't do that. Um, I unfortunately did a couple pieces like that way back in the day, and I definitely regret doing those. And it's very cringy that I've done those, and sometimes I get down on myself because I did do that. But it shows growth. You know, like I'm 43 years old. I got a wife, 2 kids, so I try to take that upon a lesson that I actually have grown past that. Every once in a while, I get a request to do it, and I turn it down. Not on my high horse. I just say like I don't do that shit no more. I appreciate you asking, but got to pass. Sometimes bands will reverse their idea and let me flex and do some things differently. Um, yeah, that's definitely one of the things I don't do. The idea is that I turn down a lot of ideas because I've done so many of them. I think there's a lot of ideas that not that trying to bands are trying to rip off each other, but they just happen. Like I want, a bunch of corpses hanging in a barn. Well, I think that's every Indonesian slam band's cover art, and I don't want to do that. Like plenty of other artists do. Like I don't want to do that. And that's sometimes they're very respectful. Other times they get pissed off. I want to do things that are different. And I know there's some things that I do that are kind of the same, but like maybe I haven't done them before, so they're different for me. But I just don't want to be the guy that does the cookie cutter shit over and over again.
Yeah, that's fair. And I think it's important to have standards too. And like I turned down a piece, and I don't do many pieces, but uh, at one point a band approached me and they said well, they want a bunch of dead kids in front of some lockers, and they said their band name was the Next Columbine. And I
No,
was like,
yeah.
nope, not doing
Not
that.
doing
Definitely
that.
not
Yeah,
doing
no,
that. But you
no.
mentioned, yeah, just trying to get away from the sexual gore sort of stuff. So, I mean, brutal death, slam, that's what most of those bands want. Can you kind of describe why you've drawn a line there? Because a lot of those people, right, and they maybe don't actually endorse that sort of stuff, but yeah, they still want that kind of artwork. So,
Yeah.
why is it important to you to distance yourself from that sort of stuff?
Um, I just got over it. I just old. I think when you're a dumb kid and you're trying to go for the extreme, like that works for you. And then as you get older, you're like, oh, that's not who I am. That's not really what I believe. That's not, I'm not trying to take it like political or anything like that, but like I just don't want to do that shit no more.
Right.
I don't it's I always try to make my stuff so ridiculous that you had to laugh. Like this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. And I think a lot of bands like want to make it brutal and like we've all seen that before. We've always seen the torso torn up. We've seen it all. Like just do something different. And I just got bored doing it. I got bored seeing it. I got bored being asked to do it. And I'm like, enough's enough. I don't want to do this crap no more. I can't. I would never force my opinion on somebody to like go. You should probably move away from that. It's not like I'm gonna boycott a bunch of bands. Like I still like a lot of the bands I did that stuff for, but I just won't do it. You know.
That's fair.
Yeah.
So now let's think about how important is it for you to enjoy the music of a band that you work with? And I've got an image to go with this one here. So here's an example where you checked out the band. You said you did not like this at all. So this was not something that you were vibing with. You didn't want to do the artwork for this band. Can you give any insight into how important is that for you to enjoy the music that you're going to be linked to permanently through your artwork?
Yeah, I don't remember this one. I don't remember the band. I remember him getting pissed off because I think he bought a piece from me and he asked to do another one. And I checked out the music for whatever reason. I wasn't a fan of it. Excuse me. Yeah, I don't really remember this one, but I guess to answer your question, uh it's hard because a lot of bands that hit me up don't have music yet.
Mm.
So like they're just starting out or they have like a guitar over like programmed drums before the drummer's done their stuff or whatever. I don't know, but so it's hard for me to like, can I check out your band first? Because they don't have the music yet. If there is, I check it out. And if it's there's been quite a few where I've turned down when the music's pretty bad and I've never like, hey, this isn't for me. I'm gonna pass. Excuse me. There are some where the music's bad, but the idea is awesome, and I'll do it because they're reaching out to me because they like my work. And if they're willing to cough up some dough to be a partner and make some cool stuff, then yeah, I'm for that. But if the music is god awful, I will usually pass.
Mhm.
I will usually pass.
And what's the reason for that? You just don't want to be affiliated with it?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess like there's no passion for it. Like if your music sucks, why do I need to get excited to do art for you, I guess. But I don't, it's not a requirement. Once in a great while, I'll check it out. And like if the band name is really weird, like I forgot I can't remember the band name, but there was one where I'm like, this sounds kind of sketchy. And I checked out their music. I think it was on YouTube or maybe it was even MySpace back in the day, and it was awful. I'm like, yeah, it's not for me. I'm not going to do that. And they caused a big stink about it, but whatever. I don't care.
So speaking of the music, what's your vendetta against Porno Grind?
Yeah, it just sucks. It's just dumb.
So do you just largely avoid working with Porno Grind bands then?
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't been asked to do that shit in a long, long, long time. I mean, it's got to be over 10 years at least.
So here's an example of a band with a pretty highbrow concept here. So they wanted an orgy with murder and lots of titties and dicks. Sexual violence, right, is something common, but this is just another example so that's something that you'd probably want to push away from.
Yeah, I wouldn't do this A because of that stuff, but B, but this is just a rip off of the Gorgasm cover.
Mm.
And it's exactly what it is. So I wouldn't do that for two reasons. It's just
Yeah.
dumb. Like this isn't brutal to me. I mean, yeah, there was the early Cannibal Corpse stuff, like when, Barnes was writing some of the weird fucked up stuff. It's even hard for me to listen to some of that shit now. So like to me, this is just dumb. This is just like cringy reaching to be brutal. And there's a shit ton of it out there.
Yeah, and the Gorgasm rip isn't even subtle either because the album's literally called Orgy of Murder.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like either they never knew this existed, that cover existed, which means they probably don't know brutal death metal at all, or they are trying to rip it verbatim, and which I would never do anyways.
And then you refused a logo recreation for Ass Deep Tongued.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't even remember this one, but yeah, that I would not do that. And then at least they were sad about it. They give me the sad emoji.
So now let's talk about people wanting somebody else's art, and then they hit you up. So maybe they like
Mm.
your or maybe they like somebody else's art, but they like your prices better. So they hit you up and they say, "Hey, can you emulate this other person's art?" So you've gotten this at least a couple of times. So one with Mark Riddick, really well known artist, does that kind of black and white ink style often. But somebody hit you up and said, "Okay, I want something like that." So how do you feel about people kind of making those types of requests, like name dropping another artist and wanting to hire you?
They suck. They're a bunch of scumbags. I mean, they're just trying to shop around for the fucking Dollar Tree version of a really good artist. Nine times. I mean, yeah, I think this pisses me off more than asking for free artwork because again, they're trying to devalue my stuff and put somebody else on a pedestal. And I know Mark. Mark is an amazing illustrator, a great dude. I think it sucks that people don't value his art and don't want to pay for that high caliber art. So they go to somebody else like me, and I will always turn them down. It's funny though because I remember posting this one, and then I have a buddy who lives in Indiana. I think it was a buddy who lives in Indiana. Someone hit me up and like, oh, is it this band? I'm like, hey, how'd you know? Because yeah, they asked me the same shit. So they were just fishing for a bunch of artists to do really cheap Riddick knockoffs, and I ain't gonna do that to Mark.
And then you got another one. So another famous artist, John Zig, well known for doing just tons of brutal death metal album covers. A lot of famous ones at this point, or at least well regarded within our genre, right? That genre. So here's somebody reaching out to you saying that basically they didn't want to reach out to Zig and try to license that, or licensing it cost a lot of money, and so they wanted you to recreate the cover for Eternal Suffering's Echo of Lost Worlds. Excuse me, Echo of Lost Words, and didn't even know who John Zig was apparently either. So they really hadn't done their homework. But yeah, thoughts there.
Yeah, I mean, I would. Zig is another. I love Zig's airbrush stuff. I think it's some of the best, and I would never try to rip his shit at all. This was sketchy too because I don't. I think I like researched the guy, and he didn't have any mutual friends and no contacts that I knew. So it was either a scam or, excuse me, some bootlegger. So I told this guy to fuck off too. I've done this before. I did it for the Moral Decay. I did it for a shirt and maybe for a tape, but that was different because that was a photo that was like hodgepodge together. Similar, that was another one, I guess, that I did a photo recreation of, and it was just a different style. But that's not the same here. I mean, Zig's a legend. I wouldn't try to rip that shit. No, never. You know.
Right. And you very much have your own style too. So yeah, it just seems strange too to hit you up
And
when
the styles are very different. Like my style looks nothing like Zig's. I guess I can kind of see Riddick's because we do black and white, but that's really the only connection. So it's weird
right.
that they would ask me to do this one with my style. It would never work.
So now let's look at some just people just wasting your time and talents. So here's somebody asking Nev to retrace an existing logo because the band
Mm.
didn't want to go anywhere local to scan the image.
Yeah, that's
So
good to do.
how much of that stuff do you get? How frustrating is that? Like you've got a whole life, right? You do stuff outside of art. You've got
Yeah.
family and whatnot. How much are people just wasting your time?
This has happened a couple of times where like I've gotten like there's a I don't want to say it's a famous one, but the ones that a lot of my buddies resend me is that someone had taken a picture or something of the logo and wanted me to scan it. And I, what do you mean you want me to scan it? Well, I don't have a digital scanner. Can you scan this for me? But they take a picture with their phone, and it was just like a pencil sketch. I'm like, are you asking me to digitize it? Like, no, just scan it. And I wound up blocking the dude because he kept on IMing me. But this happens quite a bit too. I get a lot of them where they have a sketch and want me to digitize it. I maybe done one or two of those, but I'll say like I'm gonna change your logo. I'm gonna change it a little bit for whatever reason, and that's okay. I don't mind digitizing a sketch, but I need to have my footprint on it or handprint, excuse me, on it because then it's not mine if I don't massage it to be better or do whatever. It's just weird that people ask for this type of shit. I don't get it.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, if they took a photo with their phone or something, it already is digital at that point. But
Well, and like you're on the internet, just fucking Google how to do it. Like they're just people are just so lazy and inept of how to get stuff done.
yeah, and then here was another example, same sort of thing. Can I get a digital copy of the
Yeah,
logo?
this was another one. Yeah. Where would I find
And
that?
and it's not like they're mailing you the logo either. Like they're showing you it. It doesn't really make any sense.
No, it and these are real people. These are real people asking really the absolute craziest things to a random stranger. You know, it'd be like me walking up to someone in the street asking them to like, can you make me dinner?
So impulsivity seems to play a role in this. So here's an example, and maybe you can let me know if you get this multiple times. But people saying, "Oh yes, I need this artwork," and then I don't know, a few hours later, next day, whatever it might be, they said, "Oh, I actually ended up doing this by myself for free, so I don't need you anymore."
Yeah.
How typical is that sort of thing? So yeah, that impulsivity kind of coming in again.
Yeah, it happens. I mean, this one was weird because they never even asked me on a price. They just said, I have a request for a commission. I'm like, okay, well, what is it? And, as you can see, I responded within 30 minutes and then it took them 24 hours to respond back. So he must have did something for free in 24 hours, which is whatever. But it happens, man. When you're an artist and your profiles are open for this type of stuff, you're going to get it. Like, you're not going to be able to avoid this. You just have to be authentic and hold yourself high in value and tell people to, politely fuck off and sometimes not politely to fuck off. It's the business.
So, what about when people or bands maybe don't have a clear idea, or they even say maybe a member says, "Yeah, I love it," and then they come back later and oh, the rest of the band didn't like it. And this is something that definitely frustrated me with some of the rare occasions where I've done this sort of thing. Is that it can be very frustrating for when a band doesn't have a clear idea, and then you're just kind of going back to the drawing board, and or they completely hate something, you got to start from scratch, do something completely different. So, can you give a little insight into that, or do you really need to make sure their idea is concrete, or do you have any rules for like, no, I'm not going to redo something, but we can tweak this, or can you give some insight there?
Yeah, it hasn't happened too many times where the band members are not agreeing on a sketch or a final concept or a color. It doesn't really happen that much. This is one of the occasions where it did. The band did pay me for this, so like it's fine, but this was just an example of get your shit together. You guys are four adults making death metal. If you guys really can't agree on, what the organ should look like or how the letter should look like, then you guys either should get new band members or not be in a band. But typically how I have my process, I try to set the milestones up for success. So like if I do the rough thumbnail, I'm assuming they're sharing it with the band and you get the thumbs up. I share the clean pencils, you're sharing it with the band, and I get the thumbs up, and so on and so forth. So I've kind of created those steps in the process so I don't have to deal with this kind of crap anymore. But every now and then, like when you get to the final stage, someone's like, "Oh, they don't really like the color of this," or "Can you do something different with this?" And I say, "Yeah, that's fine, but you need to pay me more." That was the deal. Like you've approved the sketches, you approved this step. If you want more, I need more money. That's
Yeah.
what it is. And 9 times out of 10, they will pay me. Sometimes like, nah, we're good. Let's just leave it. And that's fine. Like okay.
That's fair. So the appreciation of art is subjective. Last image here, but some people just want to be haters anyway, right? Maybe the band's happy, but how much do you kind of get people just leaving nasty remarks? Oh, I hate your style of art or whatever. I don't like that you did this. Do you get much of that? How do you deal with it? Does it bother you? Any
No, and it
thoughts?
doesn't. I mean, I get a lot of it. It doesn't bother me at all, but I'm definitely going to respond because that's what they're looking for. I don't know why people think they need to comment negative stuff. And I'm not saying that like I need to be my ego boosted every now and then, but to go out of your way to give some sort of like artistic opinion or direction on a piece that A, you're not in a band and I don't respect you because I have no idea who the fuck you are. Why would I give you the time of day? This guy was one of those examples where he was talking about the protrusion shirt I just did, which I actually really liked. I like the fact that it's overly detailed and kind of like Dungeons and Dragons, like old school death metal demo, like hard to look at. I like that. And the band loved it, you know. This guy didn't like it, then just don't buy it. It's okay. Like I don't need your opinion. And I don't know if he was an artist. I never see artists commenting on my stuff as far as like the critiquing. It's just some random schmuck that I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, oh, maybe like the logo could have been tilted this way, or like, you know, this corpse is doing whatever, and it's just weird. It's just weird. It's again like going into a restaurant, not eating the food and just critiquing how bad it is or how they can make it better.
Yeah.
Again, it's the internet or how social media has gave everybody a voice when they probably don't need one because it just makes matters way worse. And I'm not saying everyone should be quiet, but like in this instance, what value do you bring to the table where you have to shit on other people's work? You don't. So you just
Right.
need to have that pedestal for yourself. Well, if you need that pedestal, go make your own fucking art and then everyone will love it and we'll have a great day.
Yeah, just people that want attention, and probably people that have
Yeah.
no art ability whatsoever. Like with your food example, people that never cooked anything, but they're like, oh well, this needed this and this.
Yeah. Or the fish tastes too fishy, or the beef is too beefy. Like, dude, fuck off. You know?
Yeah. Do you ever look back on your own art and kind of think like, I could have did that better. I'm not really happy with that, or
Yeah, all the time. I'm
yeah,
I'm my worst critic. I mean, even the stuff that I do, even the stuff that I really liked doing, every once in a while I'll look at something like, that kind of sucks or whatever. But that's just growth. Like as artists, if you're not critiquing your own work, then you're not growing. And I think bands are the same way. You know, like bands are always gonna, I don't want to say change their sound, but they're gonna evolve or they're gonna do something different with each record. I mean, unless you're you know, Motorhead, the gods of rock and roll, you're probably not gonna you're gonna be the same because you have found perfection. But artists are always gonna do something different.
yeah.
You have to.
So just like with musicians, but when you're creating art, like how do you know when it's done? How do you know not to just like whittle it to death, keep refining it or whatever? How do you find that line?
Usually when I'm bored with it is when I'm done.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I always have the process in my mind. I always have the end result that I want to do. So I think at that point when I'm kind of going through my mental process with my mind to my hand and um you know, put the cherry on top. I'm like, okay, yeah, you know what, this is probably done. I probably should move on, you know. I don't really overthink pieces at all. I try not to because then it's not fun.
Right.
So
Yeah. And you've been doing this for decades. Is it very much still fun for you?
that's a great question. I don't, yes and no. Commissions have been really down lately, so I think that's not fun. You know, so I've been doing a lot of my own ideas that I put out there, and I think it's hard when I put a stuff out there for my own ideas and it just kind of sits. That kind of sucks. And that's more of so of like maybe that's just the way the world is right now. It's the way I am in my so-called career that there's a lot of other artists out there and the trends have been going to a different style and away from mine, which is fine. You know, shit changes. I think that the part that kind of sucks, but that's the nature of the beast. Like you're never gonna be always on. You know, you're never gonna be the hottest thing ever. You're always gonna be changing. The world's gonna be changing. So I think that's the part that kind of sucks. Um, I don't enjoy seeing that, but I do enjoy still doing the work when I do get it. There's a couple, like I said, I turn down a lot of stuff that I don't want to do because I want to like the work.
Right.
But for the most part, I do still enjoy it.
Does the financial component pull any of the fun out of that? Like, do you ever find yourself like, I really need to do some art, and does that make that less enjoyable, or is that really not your situation?
No, I mean I'm lucky enough. I busted my ass in my real job where I have that. You know, this is more for like beer money and toy money. But I drink and buy a lot, so like I do need a lot of that. Um, but the financial thing is not it's not the deciding factor. You know, I'm not like I need to do $1,000 cover because I got shit. And then there are artists that have to do that, and
Right.
you know, you got to do what you got to do. I get it. You know, you got to do the grind. But I'm grateful that I don't have that situation.
Can I ask what the real job is?
how should I say it? Like I work for a CPG company, consumer product goods, and I oversee the creative team inside that building.
Very cool. So you kind of have creativity through multiple areas of your life then.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
cool.
yeah. I've always been doing something with my hands or my mind. Uh, Never what I when I was in high school, I didn't really see myself doing that. It just kind of happened as I was going through my, my life cycle process, whatever, and that's what I've been doing. So I've been doing it for a long time.
So with your art, is there a highest peak that you'd like to get to? Is there kind of a Mount Everest or something? Is there
Mm.
something you still really want to achieve as an artist?
Yeah, I always said if I ever did a shirt for Cannibal Corpse, I would retire. Uh, I would still love to do that. It's hard because obviously Locke is their guy. I do see sometimes they do other artist stuff. I would love to do Cannibal shit. It was really cool doing Cattle's logo and working with Travis and all those guys. Cardiac, Cyanide. I've hit just about all of my band wants, but the last one definitely is Cannibal. So if that ever happens, I will go. I've gone on record. I will do it again. I will retire if I do a Cannibal Corpse shirt because that's peak for me. Like I would probably close commissions and just do my own artwork because I think once you've done stuff for Cannibal, like there's no higher than that, at least for me.
Yeah. And is that kind of like your main focus then is death metal? Is there like peaks outside of death metal or is that musically, is that your favorite sort of stuff?
I mean, for doing art, sure, yeah, definitely death metal. I've done some power metal stuff. I've done some hardcore stuff, thrash, of course. Like, and I'm not really. I only do death metal type things. I'll do whatever as long as the idea is great and they pay. I'm totally fine doing that. But yeah, as far as the peak is definitely Cannibal.
And then you mentioned that, yeah, maybe people are moving away from your style of art. And one of the styles of art that people are moving towards is the generative artificial intelligence stuff. Can you kind of give me your hot take on that? I mean, not long ago when there was the viral, like, post yourself as an action figure, as a toy or whatever, and people put in their code and
Yeah.
get these cute little images or whatever. But you made your own hand-drawn version and was like, no, use real art. Look how much more charming this is. That's not your paraphrasing, but
Yeah, yeah.
uh, but how do you feel about this move, right, towards AI art that we see from a lot of bands?
It's just fucking lazy. I mean, it's kind of taking away the essence of death metal. Death metal, personally, and I've gone on record to say this many times, I think death metal has always been 60% image, 40% music. And once you take that image and cheapen it, you're taking out 6% of what death metal or metal is in general. In the day when you go to the record store, you would look at the metal record covers and like, I want to listen to that. It's not like you were listening to the album before you saw the cover. It was always the cover. It was always the logo. It was the shirt. It's always been that way. I, you can't argue with me otherwise. So I think when you cheapen it or when you try to strip it down of that raw or grittiness and make it perfect, or even when you fake the raw and grittiness, it just looks you're a poser. It sucks.
So when it comes to that image with death metal, so what are the great album covers for you? What are the ones that really reflect this is what death metal is, but visually?
Yeah, I mean, the Cannibal Corpse stuff for sure. Um, I really love the old demo stuff. The Cyanide, Severs, the Dogods. I like the fact um, that it was drawn by somebody that had, like, they're probably in fucking high school, or they were stuck at the job and they were doodling and like, let's put this on the album cover or the demo cover. To me, it does two things. One, it's the passion for it. Well, three things: the passion for it, the grittiness of it, and the fact that they're escaping from their reality for a hot minute just to do something gross or dirty or evil or scary, whatever the fuck it was. And to see that happen, like, I think that is the coolest thing about death metal. To use it as an escape from the bullshit that we deal with, and they put it on paper, they recorded it, and that was that. So I would definitely say the cannibal stuff, some of the autopsy shit as well, mental funeral, trying to think of some other death metal ones. Yeah, I mean, like, now of course I'm drawing a blank, but yeah, usually like the Morbid and Fantastic one. Yeah, I think those. Usually like the Florida stuff, of course. Um, some of the Swedish or the early Grave demos for the tapes. Those were awesome too. Yeah.
Any thoughts on the ethical sort of issues with the AI? So a lot of people are like, well, I love all the Vincent Locke stuff. They can put that into it, crank out something that looks like a mathematical average of him and a bunch of artists put together. All kind of looks the same, but they're, oh, it's so bloody, it's so brutal, it looks so cool. A lot of these images are being spread. They're kind of viral on Facebook and Instagram right now. But yeah, they maybe don't think about, well, where did those images come from originally?
Yeah, I mean it's stealing. I mean you're taking somebody's art and making something with it again, or stealing somebody's style. Again,
Yeah.
you really can't convince me otherwise. If I had put, you know, if I had put Ace of Spades into a, if I had done Ace of Spades and, you know, put in the AI and did, oh, this is now Ace of Clubs or whatever the fuck it is, you're stealing the song. It is what it is. Like, it's thievery.
Are you bothered less by AI that there is when they use what's basically an ethically sourced database? So somewhere the artist willingly said, yes, you can use my art, feed it to this database. That's largely not what people are using when they're creating AI art. But if people were doing that, would you feel any differently about it?
No, I still think it's lazy. I mean, I still think it's thievery. I mean, there's a lot of, especially in my industry, there are a lot of other creatives that need to use AI to kind of keep up with the times. I think AI can be great for shortcutting things that don't suck the experience out of things, don't suck the natural process out of things. You know, if like you can use it to crunch data for whatever, like I think that's great. I don't think you need to use AI to compose music or artwork or you know, whatever. I think that when you're taking art and crushing into that type of thing, it's no longer art. Now it's a commercialized robotic product that has no life, and it fucking blows.
Yeah, and I think maybe it even oversaturates the market now too, because there's a seemingly infinite number of
Yeah,
bands out there, and especially now that they can just kind of program some of this stuff and put out music.
yeah.
How do we even find the good stuff in that mess of everything?
Yeah, there was a stream of like fake AI bands that were popping up on Spotify that people were just making, you know, fake bands to get those 0.001 cent streams or whatever. I saw a lot of them come out of China. It was China, Japan. I can't remember where. Um, yeah, that was weird too, because one of them I'm like, oh, this is interesting. This is different. And then I'm like, wait, this is AI. And I
Yeah,
should have all the buddies like, oh yeah, this is AI. I'm like, wow, that almost got me. That sucks.
yeah. Like I think there was a bot that was just Archspire music chopped up and glued back together, and
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, infinite streaming death metal channel or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you want to mention that maybe we haven't thrown out there in our conversation today?
Anything I want to say?
Or anything you want to plug?
Not really. I mean, I'm just doing what I do, you know. I don't really have any I don't have a ton of upcoming projects that uh yeah, I mean, I'm just doing artwork for bands, man. Like if there's nothing else, I don't have any, there's no bands ever. I'm done with that stuff. Um yeah, just hit me up if you got art or you want some art done. Excuse me.
Yeah, so if people have liked what they've seen, have gotten a good feel for you, what you do, that they, if you offer you human wages, so that you might be able to figure something out. So how do you want people to get a hold of you
Yeah,
if they
usually
want to
through
hire?
Instagram is my main source of all my commissions. Of course, I have my linked tree there that has my other social media handles, but preferably Instagram, email too. But yeah, yeah, that's it.
Okay, then I want to thank you for being a great partner to work with on a lot of stuff over the years too. Of course, many other artists can vouch for how well it is to work with you also. But thanks for your time today. I really appreciate the chat. Hopefully, people got some perspective on what being a metal artist, a death metal artist, is like. And yeah, hopefully things keep going well for you. And I hope you eventually get that peak of that Cannibal Corpse shirt. And I
Yeah,
wish you luck in that.
me too, man. Thanks again for inviting me, and always love working with the Sewer Rock guys because you guys always have some interesting ideas and do things differently. So I do appreciate that. So thank you.
Thanks so much. So until next time.